Firstly, let's go over to the Ballads, Songs and Vignettes recording. I'll play the piece through on that recording, and then the second cycle, Destiny will be singing the lyrics and I'm doing the accompaniment. And given that that's a performance project, sometimes we move back and forth between the cameras. When we come back, what I'll do is I'll break it down and show you as simply as I can exactly what it is I'm doing. So let's go across to that now.
If I could have one day, if I could have 1 hour, if I could have one time to see you for a moment, I'd take your hand in mine and look into your eyes and thank you for the friend you were to me.
Well, firstly, I just love this piece of music. I wrote this for my father. He was a beautiful man. And, that essence of, look, if I could just have another day or an hour or just a moment with you, just to hold your hand and look into your eyes and thank you for, the friend that you were. It means a lot to me, this simple little piece. So I start the piece. Let's have a look here. I've just set up a camera to my right shoulder, and we'll see if we can sort this out. I'm starting very simply. It's really just a C chord, which I'm adding the D to. There are differing opinions about, should we call this an add 2 or an add 9? And there's even subjectivity as to, whether the 9, whether we need the 7th there in order to call it the 9th. I don't want to get into that conversation. So for me, I'm just referring to this as a C add D. So we start with this chord, and I'm just really playing, the C and the G, the 5th interval in my left hand. And I'm playing these first 3 notes here, the first and the third, and I'm adding the D, which is the 2nd or the 9th. Now, particularly with accompaniment, the approach here is to just provide both the harmonic foundation as well as the rhythmic foundation, keeping out of the lane of the vocals so that the vocalist has that space to be able to give us the vocal rendition. So the rhythm that I'm just working with is just a simple pulse. So in this instance, I'm just playing that like 1, 2, 3, ba 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 ba, 1, 2, 3, ba 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 ba. And because I've got those 4 ba 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 ba's, I'm just picking the top note of my left hand and running up the other 3 notes. Really, really simple, really standard against that C add D chord. Now the next chord, all I'm doing as far as the chord is concerned, I'm just taking my E and I'm moving it up to the F. Technically speaking, I think of this chord as an F minor add 6. So here's my, here's my F, my minor third, my 5th I'm playing in the left hand. I'm picking it up here as well. Here's my 6th. So we have that, if I could have one day, if I could have 1 hour, if I... Now, we can see 2 things. Firstly, all I've done in the left hand is I've just moved my thumb from the G to the A flat to the A, and I've come back here to my original 3 notes. The chord that I'm playing here, couple of instances here. Once again, I would look at this as a C chord with the 6th being added and the 9. So we could say C add 6, 9. That's a possibility. of course, from a playing-based perspective, I'm not getting into any of this conversation with our entry-level students. I'm really just showing them from the point of view of how I've got these 3 notes. The top note of my right hand moves up, it just comes back. So I'm just showing them that. I'm showing them how to break up the notes. And we're seeing that their left hand is just moving up a half step each time. So it's very, very simple and straightforward. So you can see what's happened in my right hand. From the beginning, I'm just going from here to here to here to here. So the only notes that are moving are these 2 notes. It's very, very straightforward. All that's happening in my left hand is I'm just zigzagging my way up and down, this series of notes. Really straightforward. What's this chord? There's a couple of things about it. I think of this as a C11. There's no third. And the inclusion of the third does affect the tonality of the harmony that I'm wanting. Probably someone who knows more than I do might call this something different than a C11, but that's how I see it and how I think about this. So we're just working from our C chord with our add D, we're working with our F minor sixth, we're working with our C6, add 9, and then we're working with our C11. So that really gives us the first half of the piece. If I could have one day, if I could have 1 hour, if I could have one time to see you for a moment. Now, as we move towards the this last half of the song, I change it up a little bit. What I'm doing is I'm just going, I'll take your hand in mine. What I'm doing here, really, I also just see this as a C5. It's neither a major or minor. It's quite neutral because there's no presence of the third. And so it's a C5 add 6. That's how I think of this. Specifically, if I put in the third, changes the tonality. If I put in the minor third, changes the tonality. So we've just got that openness of that 5th interval with the 6th added. I'd take your hand in mine. And I preserve my right hand. I just move my left hand down that half step to the A flat, which once again I think of this as our F minor with the added G, add 2, add 9, and then we come down to our sort of final note. And in this instance, in the piece, I sort of play it along, and so I just echo, in parallel with the melody. Really straightforward. Not much more to it than that. You can play around with this from a rhythmical perspective, just having that pulse. So have a look at what I'm doing there. I've just got the... So certainly the most important thing here is that you just understand the notes that I'm using, the coloration of the harmony, and then explore what it is that you're going to do to break up that, to provide some rhythmical interest. Just make sure that you're not doing something that's too complicated, that it crowds the space of the vocalist. And oftentimes if we think in terms of the vocalist there are breaths, there are pauses between the lines, that's often a good time to be actually, to add some embellishment or some rhythmic flourish. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward.